Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, November 26th, 2020, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2022 Senate elections and just talk about the two Republicans that are set to retire in the United States Senate. So we have a number of races up in 2022, and I know it seems as if this is far away, but it's only 2 years out, and I can almost guarantee we will start to see retirements on both sides almost instantly. We've already actually seen two Republicans that have announced before the 2020 election that they were retiring in 2022. Based on the election results, an additional Republican senator had said whether or not they would retire. That was Senator Ron Johnson from the state of Wisconsin, but it looks because of Biden's victory that he may be able to edge out another term just because of the fact that many people are expecting this year to be a Republican wave year. But if you take a look at Senate elections in the past, despite the Democratic Party winning the House of Representatives in 2018, the Republicans won 2 additional Senate seats because of the fact that they won those 2 seats in the presidential election, those 2 states in the presidential level just 2 years prior. So it's very possible we see a somewhat similar repeat in 2022. But if we're looking at the 2 seats that are currently, I guess you could say target seats, just because of the fact that they have retiring Republicans, we're going to go ahead and characterize all of the states that currently have Republican incumbents and talk about why those 2 specifically are important to note, just because of the fact that if the Democrats are able to make inroads in one of those states, it does spell out, or both of those states, it does spell out bad news for Republicans in Congress. So let's go ahead and see. So we're at 52-48. That is the current composition. This is assuming both David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win the state of Georgia on January 5th. If David Perdue is to win, that regular election will not be up, but Kelly Loeffler will be faced with another election in 2022. So she had the first one in November, the runoff now, and just under 2 years later, she will have an additional election. So Democrats could be looking there for a pickup as well. But overall, take a look at some of these numbers. I mean, 52-48 seems like a pretty okay majority, a difference of 4, really a majority of 2 for the Republican Party. But the Republicans that are retiring are in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. North Carolina Senator Richard Burr and Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey. So when we're looking at these 2 states, these senators have actually announced that they were retiring pretty early on. Let's go ahead and take a look at them individually. So there are a number of people that could potentially run on both sides, Republicans and Democrats. It looks like people are going to be eyeing up this race, but it looks as if that this announcement was made on the 4th of October. So this is probably one of the biggest announcements prior to the 2020 election. Lou Barletta actually ran in 2018. Overwhelmingly lost by double digits, absolutely obliterated in this race, and also it looks as if he's not planning to run in this election. So an open seats typically favor whichever political party won that state on the presidential level. 2022 may not be too favorable for the Republicans in this Senate race, given the fact that it just recently voted for Joe Biden. And also in 2016, it wasn't exactly that large of a margin. It was a little bit over a percentage point, 1.5%, nowhere near his Democratic colleague's victory in 2018. So 2022, while it may not be a Democratic wave year, there just may be a little bit more partisan support for the Democrats, as we saw for the Republicans in 2018. So let's go ahead and take a look back at our regular elections as well. Like I said, Republican Senator Richard Burr, he ran in 2016. He also narrowly won his election. It's nowhere near as narrow as the Pennsylvania race. This is nearly 5 points, nearly 6 points, but it wasn't a blowout. It was not 2018 for the Democrats in Pennsylvania. So 2016 went well because Trump won this state by 4 points on the presidential ballot. Unfortunately for Republicans, Trump only won it by 1% this time, rounding down 1.4%. If you want to look at the actual number, it doesn't change much. But overall, I mean, a victory for Trump, yes. And it could still be a victory for Republicans in 2022, but you also have to realize that they won't have the factor of the incumbency as they did in 2016. And also, we've seen in recent history that it's possible for Democrats to and Republicans to do better in midterm years, even though they may not be too favorable if we're talking about specifically the Senate elections. And potential candidates could be Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, who just won his re-election bid by 5 points, or a number of other Republicans that are on here. Dan Forest, lieutenant governor of North Carolina, who just lost the North Carolina governor's race, or Pat McCrory, who lost the North Carolina governor's race in 2016. There are a number of top people, but Mark Meadows said he was not going to run. Richard Burr has also said that he is not going to run as well. So these two races are gone in terms of the fact of the incumbency. Wisconsin, we've seen very weird things. We haven't heard anything officially from Ron Johnson. He said he's not ruling out a 2022 run for governor. He's also not ruling out whether or not he is running for a third term. So we still have yet to see. He probably will, given that Biden will be the incumbent, or he could very well run for governor. So we don't know. But Scott Walker has declined to run, so he may end up running. It says he won't run for office in 2022, but we all know that people generally change their minds if the year is favorable. So 2022 Senate elections, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, open seats, prime targets for Democrats. But I want to point out really quickly that if you apply the 2020 presidential election map, and let's say David Perdue wins that Georgia Senate race, well, Wisconsin would flip, Pennsylvania would flip, and that would be enough. They wouldn't even need North Carolina or Georgia, and they won Georgia on the presidential level. So let's say Kelly Loeffler's seat is gone. Absolute majority for the Democrats, not even with Vice President Kamala Harris. But it looks as if now that even without Georgia, that the Democrats win back the majority. So it's very possible for the Democrats to win. I just don't think that they can afford to be out of power for 2 years, and there's even a possibility that they lose some Senate seats in this election. That's not even counting the fact that in New Hampshire, we could see Chris Sununu run. In Maryland, we could see Larry Hogan run. In Colorado, we could see a Republican run. In Nevada, we could see a Republican run. In Arizona, Martha McSally could be back. We don't know. There are a number of seats that could be competitive for both Democrats and Republicans, so it's not a done deal that these Democratic seats are secure, which means even if the Democrats won over the states that they did in the presidential election, it only narrowly get them to the majority at 51. Still would be outright, but would probably be one of the best performances we would see for the Democrats, given that this year, 2022 in specific, would likely not be too favorable for the Democrats, given that it's going to be a year where the opposition party is going to have a lot of energy. I mean, ask yourself, if these voters really think that the election was rigged, as over 80% of Republicans do, or at least they believe that the election was illegitimate in one way or another, we're probably going to see them come out in full force in the following subsequent midterm election. So that could be not too beneficial for the Democrats. I'm not saying that they won't pick up seats in the Senate because the Republican Party clearly did in 2018. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult because they are going to be working in territory that was slightly different than what the Republicans had in 2018. Where the Republicans picked up seats, keep in mind the Democratic Party still did a lot of good things. They held the entire Rust Belt. They held Ohio. They held West Virginia. They held Montana. They picked up Arizona and Nevada, but they lost North Dakota. Plus 30 for Trump, lost Missouri. Plus 20 for Trump, lost Indiana. Plus 20 for Trump, lost Florida, which was a shocker. But following this election, wasn't actually. So 2022, the map is a lot more competitive, I guess you could say. A lot more things for the Democrats to defend than 2020. But you do have to realize that with these retiring incumbents in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, these become prime targets as pickups for the Democrats, given that the incumbency factor will no longer hinder them, and Pennsylvania will probably be a pickup if the Democrats run a pretty strong candidate. So overall, the Democrats should be happy with these retirement announcements. It's going to end up being positive for them if they're able to hone in on their bases that they won over in 2020. Without Donald Trump on the ballot, it may be more difficult for Republicans to win. We have yet to see an election from 2016 where Trump is not on the ballot. So we will see, Trump is not in office or on the ballot. So we will see what happens. The last time Trump wasn't actually on the ballot was 2018, and the Democrats did phenomenal. So we will see. Obviously, that was just a wave year. It was an opposition wave year. So again, I'm going to say it for the fifth time. We will see what happens under a Biden administration. But the Democratic Party should be happy with these retirements, but it's probably going to be one of the first retirements of many. We're probably going to see many Democrats retire in the House, many Republicans retire in the House, many Republicans and Democrats retire in the Senate. We're looking at Wisconsin, and we're looking at some of these other states. You know, Rubio is probably going to end up running again in 2022. He may end up running for president as well. In Iowa, Chuck Grassley may actually decide to not run. That could be an open race, but it'll still probably go to the GOP. In Ohio, we could see the possibility of Rob Portman not running. He hasn't announced anything yet, but he's probably going to. Right here, he's already begun fundraising and given strong indications that he intends on running. So we know that he's probably going to run. It's just he hasn't officially declared yet. But we are looking eyes out on Iowa. Chuck Grassley has been in this race for a very, very long time. Take a look at his voting history. He was first, first term in the United States Senate, 1980. This is his seventh term. So he could run. Chuck Grassley, he may not because he is pretty old. He's the president pro tempore in the United States Senate. He could run. We don't know yet, but he probably will not. He also said that he would decide whether to run 8 months to a year before the 2022 election, so he's going to keep us waiting for quite some time. But overall, a lot of these incumbents are going to be running, but we're going to see some retirements sometime in the near future or sometime next year, which will give us a better indication of where both parties are going to be targeting in the next midterm election. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2022 election playlist or Senate election playlist. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.